Signs. What are the common signs and symptoms in a chiropractic office? Even for personal injury. That's it. And this is typically the order of priority. Pain, number one, pain, inflammation, muscle spasms, restricted motion in 3 categories: active, passive, joint motion, loss of strength, loss of elasticity, stiffness. Anybody else in here saying predominantly more symptoms than these? Anything? You seeing any more symptoms besides those? You don't count.
Not really, no.
You seeing any more symptoms than that? You? Any more than that? At any degree, right?
ADLs maybe.
What?
Like ADLs.
That's not a symptom. I said symptoms.
Neurological.
Name the number one neurological you may see.
So when you do cranial nerves, they'll have a loss of smell.
Smell?
Yeah.
Okay.
taste, Sensation of
I said number one. You said cranial nerve smell. Is that what you said?
cranial, yeah.
Okay, watch this. Raise your hand if any of you guys have had any loss of smell with cranial nerves in any of your patients throughout any of your career. Raise your hand. Anybody else? Look around the room. One. How many patients have you seen a loss of smell with cranial nerves?
Probably 2 back there.
And how many years you've been in practice?
22 years.
22 years. Anybody else? Nobody else? Okay, why am I pointing this out to him?
Wasting your time doing it.
No. It's not wasting your time doing it. Unfortunately, you do have to do it.
Happens, but they're rare.
What I'm trying to do is go, I'm real big into probabilities versus possibilities. Hold with me. So, will you periodically see something? Yeah, but am I going to put it in the 80 percentile mix? Just random stuff? You'll see dizziness every now and then, right? Right? You'll see dizziness. Dizziness and blurred vision, right? You see that kind of more so, right? Is it an 80% symptom, dizziness and blurred vision? You're going to see that 80% of your patients, dizziness and blurred? No. It's a small. Will you have loss of olfactory senses? Yeah, but how small is it going to be? Small. So I'm just trying to put it in focus. What's the 80% rule? In other words, focus on what? The majors. I had a friend. I actually had one friend. Only lasted a little while. I was able to destroy that relationship really quick. And he had a great saying. I love the saying. He goes, "Stop majoring in the minors." I'm like, he said, I thought, I kind of like that. That just makes a heck of a lot of sense. It's probabilities versus possibilities. If you live your life to the probabilities, you know how much further you're going to go, and stop getting caught in the weeds. And if you at least know the 80%, you'll be able to figure out the 20%. And some of it you won't. But I don't care, because the 80% is going to take you where you need to go and whatever it is you do in life, you know. So these are the most common ones. Now, why am I putting these up here? If these are easily the 80 to 90% of the symptoms you're going to see, then why am I putting them up here? That's your therapeutic protocol right there. Your therapies, and you should have therapies for those symptoms. That's what you should have. I helped a guy open a practice recently, and he said, "What therapies do I need?" I said, "Do you need therapies for the inflammation phase? You need therapies for the repair phase, and you need therapies for the remodel phase." And I said, those are basically these symptoms right here: pain, inflammation, restricted range of motion. Those right there. I said, those are the therapies you need right there. That's the chiropractic office right there. You wouldn't know that looking at your friends on Facebook, would you? Hell, you'd think vaccines were the number one problem and the number one thing you see in chiropractic. Right? Or chemtrails. Chiropractors are just, authorities on chemtrails, because they get chiropractors. You haven't noticed that? Chiropractors make a lot of money consulting on chemtrails. You know how ridiculous this stuff is? That's it right there, man. That's it. That's your chiropractic office. That's your bread and butter. How many kids you have? That's what's feeding your kids, is it not? You think I might want to pay attention to what feeds my kids? That's where I'm going to put my. So that's the therapies you should have. Okay? Now, having said that, now this is just generally, here's what I want to do. I want you to think for yourself, and what do you have in your office therapeutically for those symptoms? Okay? What are you doing? What therapies do you have? Okay? So through the 3 phases of healing for those symptoms. Number 1. These are some common pain therapies. These are some common pain therapies. Can I explain, and by the way, you have to be able to explain your therapy as it relates to that particular symptom. So can I explain how chiropractic helps in the pain and inflammation phase? I can. Can you? Can you explain how the chiropractic physical medicine adjustment helps in the repair phase? I can. Can you? Can you explain why the exact same therapy, chiropractic physical medicine, is beneficial in the remodel phase? All 3 different phases, all 3 different goals, but I'm going to explain how that chiropractic helps in each one of them. And my explanation is going to be different for all 3 of them. It's going to be different for all 3. It's going to be relative to what I'm trying to do physiologically. What am I trying to do physiologically? That's how I want to explain that therapy. I don't want to just come up with an explanation for a therapy and copy and paste it for the inflammation phase. Copy and paste it for the repair phase. Copy and paste it for the remodel phase. No. Because like muscle stems like that. I can explain muscle stem for pain. I can explain muscle stem for muscle spasms. I can explain muscle stem to increase strength. All 3 phases of healing. I can explain it. I can explain physiologically how that happens. That's what you have to be able to do. Well, it's the same therapy, but it's not the same what? Explanation. And it's typically not the same use, right? As an example, if I'm going to use it for pain, muscle stem, I'm going to use it for the tensionizing gate theory effect. So it'll be on continuous subthreshold. That's how I'll use it for pain. That's why I'll use it for pain. Now, in the repair phase for muscle spasms, I'm going to put it on the tetanize mode, the contractile tetanize mode, to help fatigue spastic and tonic muscles. Now, in the remodel phase, I'm going to put it on the tetanizing mode, synergistic with active motion. Now I can use it synergistically with active motion to help increase strength. I just explained one therapy 3 different ways. That's what you need to be able to do. If you're going to use a therapy and you're going to use its physiological effects for a different phase, make sure you can explain it specific to that physiological phase like I just did, okay? Make sure you can do that. Don't just say, don't do the copy and paste. Don't go, oh, muscle stem's good for decreasing pain, muscle spasms, and increasing strength. Copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Don't do that. When you're on that stand, and if you're going to do personal injury, you're going to do a deposition. You may not get to court. Only 5% of cases of civil suits get to court. So it's kind of rare if you get to court. And everything about what you document should stop you from trying to get to court, okay? Unless you really start, you and your attorney start going for policy limits. You'll start getting to court more often. Because now your attorney's got faith in you, he's got trust in you, and we're going after him. And that's what happened with me. Once they knew I could testify in court and I could explain it, he's like, okay, let's go to court, let's go to court, let's go to court, right? Because they want to go after it all. So it will happen. When you start explaining better, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing, because how valuable are you when they trust you to take their cases to court regularly? That's a good thing. That's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Great point. Dr. Paul, one question on this for symptom therapies, pain, and inflammation. What about numbness, tingling?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and I probably should have included that, right? Yeah, numbness and tingling. You're right. Okay? I would probably put that under the pain category. What therapy would you use for numbness and tingling?
Depends on the cause.
Well, that's the answer. Depends on the cause, right? Right? But what would traction, how would we use traction to decrease tingling and numbness? If the cause was what?
Physical compression.
Compressile. How would you say, what therapy would you use?
I'd use traction and then maybe range of motion
Okay, and how would range of motion affect?
to decrease the nerve root pressure. Increase range of motion in that area.
Okay,
Decrease inflammation also.
okay. What about muscle stim? Could you use muscle stim, and for what? What would be probably the primary cause of the tingling and numbness if I was going to use muscle stim physiologically to help it? Inflammation. Inflammation, right? If there's nerve sheath inflammation, now I'm working on inflammation as opposed to compression. See, over here it's compression and inflammation. What if it's just inflammation? Traumatic inflammation, no compression, right? Now I just want to work with inflammation. But what if it's compression? Then I want my therapeutics that help with compression. So do you see the line of thinking? I'm thinking in these terms. What therapy am I using to help specifically that symptom? This is when, I'm talking black belt stuff here, guys. This is black belt personal injury. Okay? Snowflake personal injuries next door. Okay? Wrong guy. So be able to explain it like that. So there's some therapies, pain therapies, chiropractic, physical. Can you explain how each one of those, can you explain how massage helps with pain? If you can't, you better not be using it. Say, whatever therapies you're doing, make sure you can explain that therapy relative to that symptom, relative to the 3 phases of healing. That's what you need to be able to do.
How far in the notes do you go to explain like decompression? I use decompression for nerve root compression.
Yeah, that's a fair question. He goes, how far? I'm going to give a simple answer, but as we go along, I think that will clear up more. Because remember, I said we're going to go big and we're going to narrow. But the short answer to that is anytime you explain a therapy, anytime you talk a therapy, you need to be able to say 3 things. And I'd write this down. You need to be able to say 3 things. Number 1, what is the name of the therapy? Number 2, in 2 sentences, no more than 2, you should be able to explain the physiology of the therapy. What is the therapy doing? What's the mechanism of the therapy? What's the mechanism of action of the therapy? You should be able to explain it in 2. See how simple this should be? Very simple. The last one is, what physiological effect are you trying to affect? What's the response? What is the physiological response you're trying to affect? Those are the 3 areas of a therapy you should always be able to explain. How quick and easy should that be? This should be easy, right? See, it's a way of thinking, okay? I'm just saying, when you talk therapies, think that way with every therapy. Be able to do those 3 things. So if I said to you, what therapy do you use for pain? Okay. Using the definition I just did, say it. Say it loud if you don't mind. What's the first thing he needs to say? The name. What's the next thing you want to say? The mechanism of action in 2 sentences. Say it.
Gait control therapy to decrease the pain level
You see? You guys get too wordy and convoluted and all that. And then you'll say stuff like the gait theory of pain. Who the hell knows that? Only another chiropractor. Say it to where an attorney would understand or a 8th grade educated juror would understand. Do they know what the gait theory of pain is? So how might you say that in 2 sentences? And then what's the physiological effect that you're trying to respond, that you're trying to use it for? What are you trying to affect? Pain. See? So it's very specific. So if I'm going to, and this is a common mistake too, doctors will say a therapy, they'll say, say for pain. So you'll say this therapy for pain, and then you'll say it's for pain, muscle spasms, let's say pain, muscle spasms, and increasing strength. Where did I go wrong right there? What's the only thing that I should have addressed? Pain. I should have only addressed it relative to what I was talking about. And you just brought in a cadre of other crap. Now, you'll talk about it later. You like somewhere down the road, you may say muscle spasms. Well, guess what I need to say now if I'm talking about muscle spasms? Only muscle spasms. Now, don't talk about pain. Don't talk about increasing strength. Only talk about that therapy relative to that subject. That's it. Okay? You guys go everywhere. You know how confusing that is? But guess how much more of an authority you sound like when you say, this therapy is specific for this. This is the physiological effect, the mechanism of action, and it's specific to help decreasing pain. Guess how much more of an authority you sound like now? Instead of your generic, this helps everything, okay? So be real specific with each of your symptoms and know how to do that. But what's the takeaway from this last 5 minutes? Anytime you talk about therapy, whether it's your SOAP notes, it's your narrative report, it's medical reports, and it's a deposition, it's trial, you should be able to say 3 things. And I tell you what they are. They're this, and how they sound. They're 8th grade. They're 8th grade. 8th grade. It's the same thing that you should say to the patient the first time you put them on the therapy. The first time you put a patient on therapy, that's what you need to be saying. This is what the therapy is. This is the mechanism of action, and this is what we're trying to affect. Do you do that the first time you put patients on therapy? How do you like just going into the doctor's office? Come on back here. Roll up your sleeve. How do you like that? And I didn't say anything about it. I didn't say what it is, what it does, what it's for. How do you like that?
I wouldn't.
Then why are you doing it to your patients? Okay? So these are some reciprocal inhibition, passive motion. We can cover some of these, and I suggest we do. This might be boring to some of you guys, but I'm telling you from my experience in dealing with a lot of chiropractors, they don't even know what the hell I'm talking about right now, most people. And what I suggest is at least down the road here, after we cover some material, that we go through and we cover some of these therapies specifically for the physiological effects you're trying to accomplish. You have to be really comfortable and lucid with, okay, here's the inflammation phase, here's the repair, here's the model, here's the physiological effects, here's the symptoms. Well, this is why I'm using this therapy on that symptom relative to that phase of healing. Because it does these 3. That's the name of it, that's the mechanism of action, and that's the physiological effect that I'm trying to affect. That's being a doctor. That's what doctors do, not technicians. Okay? So, could you explain that? Pain therapies. Inflammation therapies. You may have some other ones. I just put some common ones. Can I explain how muscle stim helps inflammation? Yes. How passive motion therapy helps inflammation? Yes. Can I explain how laser therapy helps inflammation? Yes. Massage? Yes. Intersegmental traction? Yes. Because if you can't explain it, you better not be doing it. And when you're doing a narrative report, a medical report, a deposition, or a trial, you better be able to explain what I'm talking about right now. Because that's what it's about. Muscle spasm therapies. These are common muscle spasm therapies. Chiropractic, muscle stim, massage. You're seeing a lot of overlap, aren't you? What do you need to be able to do with your therapy? Even though it's the same therapy, what do you need to be able to do? Explain it to the specifics of that symptom to that phase of healing. And don't copy and paste it across the board. Okay? By the way, all this stuff we're talking about, this is how you don't get IMEs. This is how you don't get your bill cut. This is how you establish the need and get paid. You quantify those symptoms. First, you know how to find them through sensitivity testing. That's the first thing. Number 2 is you quantify them. Number 3 is you use the therapeutic protocol based on what I just said. Now we know the symptoms. We've quantified it at a higher sensitivity level, which gives me more variables to show change. You have to show change to do what? Establish the need for care and get paid. And relative to the 3 phases of healing. That's what I want to be able to do. Loss of strength, resisted therapy bands, active resistance. Loss of elasticity, chiropractic physical medicine, intersegmental traction. So these are the symptoms: reciprocal inhibition, massage, traction. These are the common therapies for those common symptoms right there.